But then sufferings would come, because the devil doesn't want you to have an inheritance. Not in your family, not in their family, not in God's family. He wants to deprive you of your inheritance in any place. He wants to make you an orphan again. But you are not an orphan, because Jesus died for you and God is your Father. My dear friend, this heirship nobody can remove. No power of this world can remove this heirship. And so the devil will use all his forces, all his people, all his giants to fight you and to fight me. To make us feel that we have nothing in this world and we are a disappointment. We are a nothing in this world. Psychology cannot change it. Counseling cannot change it. Only this permanent heirship that Jesus has given you can change it. So from the familial perspective, we are who? We are heirs. Where are we? We are in God's family. And what do we ought to do? Therefore, we have to expect sufferings that would come without any reason, because there is a force out there trying to attack us. And therefore, what do we ought to do? That is what Paul is doing. We ought to pray. So Paul is praying. First of all, Paul is praying that people would understand that suffering is glory, because it's a counterintuitive thing for them in their world. And second, Paul is praying because he wants them to understand the worth of this heirship that they have. Because if they do not understand the value of this, they may leave it and go away. So Paul says, for this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. Why is he saying every family derives its name from this Father? He's saying so because he wants to say that we are the real family of God. Man, the others are only deriving their name from this family. Can you believe it? Ambani, Adani, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, everybody has a name in this world. And this name God has given, of course, God has made them great people. Even the Baudiga Israel that we see, they are all deriving their name from heaven. Like heaven is okay with their names and they having a big name in this world. But we are God's family. He is our Father and we are His real sons and daughters, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. Paul kneels before his Father, your Father, our Father, and prays that out of His glorious riches, see, glory is the language, the temple language. Out of His glorious riches, He may strengthen you with power through His Spirit in your inner being. This is something that I memorized many days ago, like 20 years ago. ആത്മാവിനാൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ അകത്തെ മനുഷ്യനെ ബലപ്പെടുത്തിയിട്ട് വിശ്വാസത്താൽ ക്രിസ്തു നിങ്ങളിൽ വസിച്ചിട്ട്. And I used to preach on this particular prayer many times because it would empower me as I preach. It would empower you as you hear. Paul is saying that God would strengthen you with power through His Spirit in your inner being. This doesn't come from anywhere else. This temple is coming from heaven, and that heavenly reality that is behind you, that is the glow that is behind you, that is the Jesus that is behind you, is empowering you by His Holy Spirit. Now look at this Pharaoh, look at Caesar, look at Trump. Everybody has somebody behind them, but you have somebody who is greater than anybody behind you. He holds all these cards, Trump, Putin, Modi, everything is under him. And this God, who is the creator of the whole universe, has decided to send His presence, not into some external space outside you, which you have to keep clean all time, not to get punished, but inside you. You are not so clean, are you? No, but He has cleansed you freely by the blood of His Son, who is your elder brother. Think of the value of that sacrifice. And now this Holy Spirit is God's presence itself, which none of us had access to or could even claim access to. Even we could come only after outer court if we were living in those times as Greek-speaking people, and maybe Cornelius kind of great centurions if we were. We could come there till there. There was no access during those times to this God and His presence, even to the Jewish male who thought, well, I am definitely going to be there because I am Abraham's heir. and to the Jewish priest who considered, I am serving God in the holy altar, holy place, and what can separate me? And the highest priest, the high priest, who would go deep into that holiest place of God with fear and reverence, and who, in a sense, has seen God. Even that person did not have the full access that you and I are getting. That is something that I wanted to explore in my thesis, which is not from this letter, but from a different letter, Hebrews. Please pray for me if you get time, because it's a deep topic and it has a lot of relevance, in my view, in this present world. It is about God's temple and worship in Hebrews, about God restoring people's conscience, many other things of that kind. And I pray that God would give me an opportunity to do this holy work in Him for His glory. So now, this holy God has come to dwell inside us. And Paul says that God may strengthen your inner being. So the first thing that you need when you are facing suffering is strength. It is likely that if you stand before somebody with a drawn sword or with a legal authority to punish you, you would be afraid. I was afraid many times. Paul says here that I pray that out of His glorious riches He may strengthen you. You need strength in the face, in the wake of suffering. You are being persecuted by people. Jewish people are persecuting you. People who are from a Greek background who do not understand your message are persecuting you. They think that you are bringing foreign gods into their culture. They think that you are bringing a new king instead of their king into your place. They think that you are following ways that are not right for your community people to follow. They think that you are sabotaging their culture, you are sabotaging their way of life, their civilization. But when they think all these things and are led to make you suffer, to hurt you, you need strength. Because you must know who you are. You must know who you are. You must know, not that all is well, you must know who you are. Who are you? You are an heir. You are a royal priest. From the temple perspective, you are a royal priest. From the family perspective, you are an heir of God, a brother of Jesus. And the brother of Jesus, child of God, heir of God, needs strength to stand, because we are standing in front of a hostile world. And so Paul prays that by His Holy Spirit, about whom he talked in first chapter, God will strengthen you in your inner man. Inner man. Some people have divided people into outer man, innermost man, going by the Jewish sanctuary. That is not true from the perspective of the Bible. If you understand, soul, when the word soul is used in Hebrew, in Greek, suke is the word that is used, and in Greek it is nephesh. Nephesh refers to the whole person, including all the bones and including flesh, including his mind, including his spirit, everything together. That is nephesh. And it is the same word that Paul is translating into Greek. So when Paul uses a Greek equivalent, suke conveys a different meaning, because suke is related to psychology, as you know. It conveys a meaning of some other thing, that is inhabiting the body, that is driving the body, kind of thing. You understand? That is, a soul and body is different in the Greek perspective. But Paul is not talking from the Greek perspective. Why I am saying so? Because Paul initially itself mentioned that we were included. Then he says, you were included. We were chosen. And then he says, you were included. We were chosen means they were chosen many, many years ago when God brought Israel out. When God chose Abraham, that is where the choice lies. So that is the predestination Paul is talking about. Paul is not talking about the predestination in the sense of, even before you were born, you were somewhere in God's thought. That is not what Paul is talking about. When Paul talks about predestination, he is referring to the Bible, the Old Testament, the Torah, when God called Abraham. That is when God predestined all the Israelites. He's not talking to the Gentiles there. He's not talking to the Greeks there. He's talking in the first portion of the first chapter only and specifically to the Jewish followers of Jesus. And he says that we were chosen and we were predestined. Now, predestined means, so there is a whole plan of God problem happening. The whole essay will be a waste of time when we talk about Arminianism, Calvinism, and plan of God, because from God's perspective, he didn't know anything about scholastic way of thinking. He didn't know anything about when God chose what. He is not even referring to those things. He is talking from the Jewish perspective. He's talking, we were chosen. He is referring to the events where Abraham was chosen by God, and then eventually God chose Moses and his people. And God says that I chose you among all these people because I am great, not because you are good or you are better than others. I love you. That is why I chose you. So the grace element that we say it is a New Testament thing is already there. It's not a new thing. There is no dichotomy between grace by faith and works contract. Both are works contract only. I have done a paper on this topic, which is about covenant justice and righteousness of God, kind of things, which N.T. Wright has explained beautifully. And if you get time, please go through that. It's a great thing to understand. There is no dichotomy between faith and work, between faith contract and works contract. People think that, works contract is about our self-righteousness and faith contract is about Jesus' righteousness. That is not true. Because in both aspects, it is a works contract only. Because you think from that work paradigm, that is why earlier you were trying yourself and you could not fulfill the righteousness. But now, whatever you couldn't do, that work Jesus has done for you and you only have to believe. But still the whole scheme is works contract only. You get it? The whole scheme is works contract. Earlier, you were trying and you couldn't do it, but now Jesus has done it for you, so you only have to believe. You don't have to work it out. Jesus has worked it out. You only have to trust and believe. But still, the paradigm is works contract only. The work needs to be done. That is the idea. But that is not true. That is not at all the paradigm of the Bible. That paradigm came in those centuries when Martin Luther lived, those people. They are the people who brought this framework, because that framework was there existing, that viewpoint was there existing in their communities during those times in other areas. So it comes from the Greek and Roman philosophies. It doesn't come from the Jewish way of thinking. From the Jewish way of thinking, what comes is God's choice on Israel and God's covenant with Israel, God's predestination of Israel to be adopted as his sons. So these are the things that Paul is talking about here. And from God's perspective, if you look at it, this works contract, I have explained it with reference to Romans, so it is difficult to explain it with reference to this text. If you read that article, you would get a better view. But I'll briefly explain what is different. What is different is that in that you are like a culprit. Jesus is like a lawyer and God is judge. And what you could not do as a culprit, you were still sinful. Jesus has done as your lawyer and your justifier, and now he has brought you closer to God. So that is the level of relationship there. But in this covenantal understanding, the relationship is very different. God is Father, you are Son. And Jesus is your elder brother. You are like an estranged son who came back to God's family. From the temple perspective, which is a language used many times, it is God, the holy God, who was separated from you because of certain reasons like autonomy and sin, is now making things right with you, so that through Jesus' sacrifice is temple language, your sin could be forgiven and God's glory, God's presence could return to you, and you could become the representative of God, a royal priest. So that is the framework that is used.